Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English in Advance, your favorite spot for daily English listening practice. I am your host, Jessica, and I am so happy you are here with me today. I hope you are feeling good. Maybe you have a cup of coffee or tea in your hands, and you are ready to improve your English skills with me. Today we have a very special session designed specifically for B1 and B2 learners, which means if you can understand me right now without too much trouble, but you still want to learn new words and speak more naturally, you are in the perfect place. We are going to have a long, relaxing, and detailed conversation today, just you and me. Exploring the English language in a way that feels natural and human. We are not going to rush. We are going to take our time, look at interesting topics, learn useful vocabulary, and practice listening to the rhythm of real English. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Today I want to talk about something that affects all of us every single day. I want to talk about the power of habits and how we can build a better life by understanding our own routines. We often think about big goals, like becoming fluent in English or getting a new job. But the truth is, our lives are actually built on small, tiny actions that we repeat every day. This is a fascinating topic because it connects deeply with how we learn languages. Think about your own life for a moment. What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? Do you reach for your phone immediately? Do you stretch? Do you drink water? These small actions might seem unimportant, but they shape our entire day. In English, we have a saying, "We are what we repeatedly do." This means that our character and our results come from our habits, not from our occasional actions. I find this so interesting because when you are learning English, you cannot just study for 10 hours one day and then do nothing for a month. That does not work. You need consistency. You need a habit. Let's explore the vocabulary around this topic a bit deeper, because I want you to not only listen but also expand your word bank. When we talk about habits, we often use the verb to form a habit or to build a habit. We don't usually say make a habit in this context, although you might hear it. To form a habit implies a process. It takes time. It is like building a house, brick by brick. Another very useful phrase is to break a habit. This is when you want to stop doing something that has become automatic, like biting your nails or perhaps eating too much sugar. Breaking a habit is often much harder than forming one, isn't it? It requires a lot of willpower. And speaking of willpower, that is another key word. Willpower is the mental strength to do something difficult. But here is a secret. Relying only on willpower is a bad strategy. If you have to use willpower every time you want to study English, you will probably quit eventually. Instead, we want to make the habit easy. We want to make it automatic. Imagine this scenario with me. You want to practice your English listening every morning. This is a great goal. But if your headphones are hidden in a drawer, and your phone is in another room, and your study materials are messy, you have to use a lot of energy just to get started. This is called friction. Friction is anything that makes a task difficult. In physics, friction slows things down. In life, friction slows down our progress. So, to build a habit, we need to reduce friction. We need to prepare our headphones the night before. We need to have the app ready on our phone screen. Then, when we wake up, it is easy. There is no resistance. I want you to think about how you can apply this to your English learning journey. How can you make it easier to study? Maybe you can change the language on your phone to English. That way, you are practicing every time you look at your screen. Maybe you can listen to this podcast while you are brushing your teeth or walking to work. This is called stacking your habits. You take a habit you already have, like walking or brushing your teeth, and you stack a new habit on top of it. It is a brilliant technique. Now let's move into a little story to help you practice your listening comprehension. I am going to tell you a story about a friend of mine named Mark. Listen carefully to the details because I will ask you a few questions in your mind after the story. Mark was a typical office worker. He had a good job, a nice apartment, but he felt stuck. He wanted to learn Spanish because he loved traveling to Spain, but he could never find the time. He told himself, "I need 3 hours to study properly and I don't have 3 hours." So he did nothing. He procrastinated. Procrastination is the act of delaying something because it feels too hard or too big. Does that sound familiar? I think we all procrastinate sometimes. One day, Mark decided to change his strategy. He decided to commit to just 5 minutes a day. Only 5 minutes. He said, "I can do 5 minutes even if I am tired." He put a Spanish app on his phone, and every morning while his coffee was brewing, he did one lesson. It was easy. There was no pressure. After 2 weeks, he realized he actually enjoyed those 5 minutes. Sometimes he even did 10 or 15 minutes because he was having fun. After 1 year, Mark could speak Spanish quite well. He didn't find extra time in his day. He used the small, wasted moments. The lesson here is that small steps are powerful. We often underestimate the power of small actions because they seem insignificant. But insignificant actions, repeated over time, lead to significant results. Let's pause for a moment and look at some of the expressions I used in that story. I said Mark felt stuck. This is a great idiom. When you feel stuck, you feel like you cannot move forward. You are in a situation that you don't like, but you don't know how to change it. It is a very common feeling for language learners. Sometimes you feel like your English is not improving. You feel stuck. This is often called a plateau. Imagine climbing a mountain and suddenly the path is flat. You are walking but not going higher. That is a plateau. But remember, just like Mark, the solution is usually to change your approach. If you feel stuck, try changing your method. If you usually read, try listening. If you usually study alone, try speaking with a partner. Another phrase I used was brewing coffee. We use the verb brew for coffee and tea. It means to make a drink by soaking or boiling ingredients. But interestingly, we also have the idiom, a storm is brewing. This doesn't mean a storm is making coffee. It means a storm is about to start. Or, metaphorically, a difficult situation or an argument is about to happen. For example, I could feel tension in the meeting. A storm was brewing. It is fascinating how words have multiple meanings, isn't it? This is what makes English beautiful, but sometimes tricky. But don't worry. The more you listen, the more these nuances become natural to you. You don't need to memorize every meaning. You just need to expose yourself to the language as much as possible. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of learning. Why do we often give up? I think it is because we are obsessed with results. We want to see the progress immediately. We live in a world of instant gratification. Instant gratification means getting what we want right now. We order food, it arrives in 20 minutes. We send a message, we get a reply instantly. But learning a language is different. It is a slow process. It is like growing a plant. You water it every day, but you don't see the plant growing bigger every hour. You have to trust the process. You have to trust that the listening you are doing right now is helping you, even if you don't feel different tomorrow. This mindset is crucial. In English, we say patience is a virtue. It means it is good to be patient, but it is hard. I want to encourage you to fall in love with the process of learning. Don't just focus on the result of being fluent. Enjoy the act of learning a new word. Enjoy the feeling of understanding a sentence in a movie without subtitles. These small victories add up. Let's practice a bit of grammar in context now. When we talk about habits, we often use the present simple tense. For example, I wake up at 7 o'clock. She drives to work. This tense is used for facts and regular actions, but when we talk about changing habits or current trends, we might use the present continuous. For example, I am trying to wake up earlier these days. She is cutting down on sugar. Notice the difference. Present simple is for permanent or routine situations. Present continuous is for temporary situations or actions happening around now. I want you to think about your life. What is a routine you have? Maybe you say, I take the bus to work. That is present simple. Now, what is a change you are making? Maybe you can think, I am reading more books this month. That is present continuous. It is a small distinction, but it makes your English sound much more precise. Being able to switch between these tenses comfortably is a key skill for the B2 level. I also want to touch on the topic of passive listening versus active listening. Right now, you are listening to me. But how are you listening? Are you looking at the transcript? Are you just letting the sound play while you clean your house? Both are useful. Passive listening is great for getting used to the rhythm and sounds of the language. It helps your brain get comfortable with English. But active listening is where the real learning happens. Active listening means you are focused. You are trying to understand every word. You might pause to look up a word, or you might repeat a sentence out loud to practice pronunciation. For this podcast, I recommend a mix. Maybe listen to the whole episode once passively, just to get the main idea. Then listen again. But this time, stop and think. Ask yourself questions. What did Jessica mean by that? How do I use that word in a sentence? This active engagement is what will move you from B1 to B2 and beyond. Speaking of pronunciation, let's look at a common challenge: connected speech. When native speakers talk, we don't say every word separately like a robot. We link words together. For example, I might say wake up, but I don't say wake, then up. I say wake_up. The K sound connects to the U sound. It sounds like one word. Or consider the phrase red apple. We say red_apple. It sounds like redapple. If you try to pronounce every word individually, you will sound choppy, and it will be hard for you to understand native speakers because they are using connected speech. Listen to this sentence. I told him to turn it off. A native speaker might say, I told him to turn _it_off. The words blend together. My advice to you is to listen for the music of the language. Don't just listen to the words. Listen to how the pitch goes up and down and how the words connect. You can practice this by listening to a short clip, maybe just one sentence, and trying to repeat it exactly how you heard it. This is called shadowing. It is a fantastic technique. Let's change the topic slightly and talk about culture. In many English-speaking countries, small talk is a very important habit. Small talk is polite conversation about unimportant matters, like the weather or sports, usually with a stranger or someone you don't know well. If you are in an elevator with someone or waiting in line, making small talk is a way to be polite. It can feel strange if your culture does not do this. But if you want to integrate into an English-speaking environment, you need to master this habit. What are the common topics? Weather is number one. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? It's freezing today. Sports is another one. Did you see the game last night? And then there are questions about the immediate situation. The line is so long today. These are safe topics. We avoid topics like politics, religion, or money in small talk because they are too personal and can cause conflict. This is a cultural habit, a social rule. Learning English isn't just about grammar, it is about learning how to interact with people. Now, I want to give you a challenge, a call to action. As we talk about habits, I want you to start a new English habit today. It doesn't have to be big. I want you to commit to listening to just 5 minutes of English every day. It could be this podcast, it could be the news, it could be a song. But you must do it every day. Consistency beats intensity. It is better to do 5 minutes every day than 2 hours once a week. Your brain needs repetition to build the neural pathways for a new language. If you do this, I promise you will see a difference in 3 months. You will understand more, you will feel more confident, and it will become automatic. You won't have to force yourself, it will just be part of your day. Let's discuss the word consistent a little more. To be consistent means to act or do things in the same way over time. It is the opposite of being random. In English grammar, we also talk about consistency in tenses. If you start a story in the past tense, you should stay in the past tense. I went to the store and I bought milk. If you switch tenses, you might confuse the listener. I went to the store and I buy milk. That sounds wrong to a native speaker. So consistency is a principle in both life and language. It is a sign of maturity and proficiency. When you are writing or speaking, check your tenses. Are you being consistent? It is a small detail, but it makes a big impact on how professional and educated you sound. I also want to share a personal story about a habit I tried to build. A few years ago, I decided I wanted to run every morning. I bought new running shoes. I bought nice sportswear, and I was very motivated. The first week was great. I ran 3 times. The second week, it was raining one day and I was tired another day, so I only ran once. The third week, I stopped. Why? Because I didn't have a system. I relied on motivation. Motivation is like a feeling. It comes and goes. Some days you feel it, some days you don't. Discipline and habit are different. They are actions you take regardless of how you feel. If you only study English when you feel motivated, you will not improve fast. You need to study even when you are tired, even when you are busy. That is the hard part. But there is a trick. The trick is to lower your expectations. On the days you are tired, tell yourself, I will just study for 2 minutes. Usually, once you start, you will continue. But even if you stop after 2 minutes, you kept the habit alive. You kept the promise to yourself. That is more important than the duration of the study. Think about the vocabulary word procrastination again. Why do we procrastinate? Usually, it is because we are afraid. We are afraid of failure, or we are afraid the task will be difficult. We avoid starting because starting is the hardest part. We have a phrase in English. The first step is always the hardest. Once you take the first step, The rest is easier. So if you are procrastinating with your English, ask yourself, why? Are you afraid of making mistakes? Remember, mistakes are your friends. They are the only way to learn. A baby falls many times before learning to walk. The baby doesn't stop trying because it fell. It gets up and tries again. As adults, we become afraid of looking silly. But to learn a language, you must be willing to look silly. You must be willing to speak with the wrong pronunciation, use the wrong verb tense, and make mistakes. That is the sign of a brave learner. Let's do a quick pronunciation exercise right now. I want you to repeat after me. Even if you are in a public place, just move your lips. I am going to say a sentence and I want you to copy the rhythm. The sentence is, practice makes perfect. This is a very common idiom. It means that doing something repeatedly is the only way to get good at it. Listen to how I link the words. Practice underscore makes underscore perfect. The S sound as the end of practice connects to the M of makes, and the S of makes connects to the P of perfect. It flows. Now you try. Imagine you are saying it confidently. Practice makes perfect. Good. Another one. Better late than never. This means it is better to do something late than not do it at all. Better underscore late underscore than underscore never. Notice the R sound in better. In American English, that T sound often becomes a soft D sound. Better. Better underscore late underscore than underscore never. Try to mimic that sound. It makes your accent sound more natural. As we continue our journey today, I want to remind you why you are doing this. Learning English opens doors. It connects you to millions of people around the world. It gives you access to information, culture, and opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise. When the studying gets hard, remember your why. Why did you start? Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want a better job. Maybe you want to watch movies without subtitles. Keep that vision in your mind. Visualize yourself speaking English fluently. Imagine the situation in detail. Where are you? Who are you talking to? What are you saying? This visualization is a powerful tool used by athletes and successful people. It prepares your brain for success. It makes the goal feel real and attainable. Let's go back to listening skills. One of the best ways to improve your listening is to listen to different accents. Right now, you are listening to me. I am speaking with a fairly standard, clear accent. But in the real world, people speak fast. They mumble. They have different accents from London, New York, Sydney, or Singapore. Don't be afraid of this. Diversity in language is beautiful. If you find it hard to understand someone, don't blame yourself. It takes time to tune your ear to different voices. You can practice this by watching interviews on YouTube with people from different countries. Turn on the subtitles if you need to, then turn them off. Expose yourself to the variety of English. It will make you a stronger, more flexible listener. We've been talking for a while now, and I hope your brain is soaking up all this English. This is what immersion feels like. You are living in the language right now. Even if you are not in an English-speaking country, you can create an immersive environment. You can change your phone language, listen to podcasts, read news in English, and think in English. Yes, try to think in English. It sounds difficult, but start small. When you look around the room, name the objects in your head. Table, chair, window, coffee. When you have a thought, try to translate it into English in your mind. This reduces the translation step in your brain. Eventually, you will dream in English. That is when you know you have truly absorbed the language. Let's look at another idiom today. To kill two birds with one stone. This sounds a bit violent, but it is a very common expression. It means to achieve two things with a single action. For example, if you listen to this podcast while you are cooking dinner, you are killing two birds with one stone. You are preparing food and practicing English. I love doing this. I listen to audiobooks while I clean the house. It makes the boring task of cleaning much more enjoyable, and I learn something new. It is a productivity hack. Look for opportunities in your day to kill two birds with one stone. It is a great way to find more time for English. Now, let's talk about active vocabulary versus passive vocabulary. Your passive vocabulary is all the words you understand when you hear them or read them. It is usually much larger than your active vocabulary. Your active vocabulary is the words you can actually use when you speak or write. Many students tell me, "I can understand you, but I can't speak." This is normal. To move words from passive to active, you must use them. You must force yourself to use the new words in sentences. When you learn a new word today, try to use it in a conversation or write it in a journal. If you don't use it, you lose it. That is another idiom. Use it or lose it. It applies perfectly to language skills. If you don't practice speaking, your speaking muscles will get weak. I want to tell you about a mistake I made when I was learning a new language. I was learning French, and I was very shy. I studied the grammar books perfectly. I knew all the rules. But when I went to France and tried to order a coffee, I froze. I was so afraid of making a grammar mistake that I couldn't speak. I realized then that communication is more important than perfection. The goal of language is to connect, not to be perfect. If you say, "I want coffee" instead of "I would like a coffee," people will still understand you. They will give you coffee. They won't judge you. In fact, most people appreciate when you try to speak their language. It shows respect. So please don't let perfectionism stop you from speaking. Embrace the imperfection. It is part of the journey. Let's refine our listening for specific sounds. Sometimes it is hard to hear the difference between certain words. For example, the ship and sheep sounds. The vowel sound in ship is short, ship. The vowel sound in sheep is long, sheep. If you say, "I want to buy a ship," but you use the long sound, it sounds like you want to buy a sheep. That is a big difference. This is called a minimal pair. Minimal pairs are words that differ by only one sound. Practicing these pairs can really improve your pronunciation and listening. Another pair is leave and live. I leave tomorrow means I am going away. I live in London means my home is there. Listen to the length of the vowel. Leave, long. Live, short. Being aware of these small details helps you understand much better. It is wonderful to continue our journey together. We talked a lot about habits and the mindset of learning, but now I want to shift our focus to something a little more practical, something that involves how we actually use English in real time. I want to talk about the art of storytelling and how we describe events in the past. This is a crucial skill for B1 and B2 learners because so much of our daily conversation is about sharing experiences. Think about it. When you meet a friend, what do you talk about? You talk about what you did yesterday, what happened at work, or where you went on vacation. You are essentially telling stories. But telling a story in English can be tricky because of the tenses. We have the past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. It sounds complicated, but I promise you, it is like painting a picture. Let's explore this together. Imagine you want to tell a friend about a strange thing that happened to you last week. If you just say, "I went to the store. I saw a dog. The dog ran away." It sounds a bit robotic. It is correct, but it is boring. It doesn't have any color or emotion. To make it interesting, we need to use different tenses to create depth. The past simple is for the main actions, the finished events. I went, I saw, the dog ran. These are the facts. But what was happening in the background? This is where the past continuous comes in. We use it to set the scene. I was walking to the store when I saw the dog. Do you hear the difference? I was walking creates a longer action that was in progress. It gives the listener a feeling of being there. It is like the background music in a movie. The past simple, I saw, is the sudden event that interrupts the background. Let's practice this concept a bit deeper, because mastering this combination is a sign of a high-level speaker. Think about a rainy day. You could say, "It rained, I walked home." But let's make it more descriptive. "It was raining when I was walking home." It paints a much clearer picture, doesn't it? Now let's add the past perfect. This is the tense that many learners forget, but it is essential for a good story. The past perfect is for things that happened before the main story started. It is the past of the past. For example, I was walking to the store because I had forgotten to buy milk. See? Had forgotten happened before. Was walking. It explains the reason for the action. When you put it all together, you get a rich narrative. Last Tuesday, I was walking to the store because I had forgotten to buy milk. Suddenly, I saw a strange dog. Now that is a proper story. I want to give you a useful tip for learning these tenses naturally. Don't just memorize the rules. Instead, listen to how native speakers use them in context. When you watch a movie or listen to a podcast, pay attention to the verbs. Notice when they use was doing versus did. Ask yourself, why did they choose that form? Was the action long or short? Was it interrupted? Was it background information? This kind of active observation trains your brain to internalize the patterns. You will start to feel what sounds right, rather than thinking about grammar rules in your head. Let's move on to another fascinating aspect of English storytelling, adjectives and adverbs. We use these to add flavor. In English, we have a specific order for adjectives, which is quite interesting. We don't say a red big ball, we say a big red ball. The general rule is size comes before color, but there is a whole order: opinion, size, age, shape, color, origin, material, purpose. It sounds like a lot to remember, but native speakers do it automatically. If you say it wrong, people will still understand you, but it might sound slightly off. For example, I bought a beautiful old Italian clock. That sounds perfect. But if you say, I bought an Italian old beautiful clock, it sounds very strange. My advice is to read a lot. When you read, you will see these patterns constantly, and your brain will absorb the natural order without you having to memorize a chart. Now let's talk about adverbs of manner, which usually describe how an action is done. Many of these end in lie. For example, he ran quickly. She spoke softly. These are vital for storytelling because they add drama. Instead of saying, he closed the door, you can say, he closed the door angrily, or he closed the door quietly. The action is the same, but the emotion changes completely. I want you to try this in your mind. Think of the verb to eat. How many ways can you eat? You can eat quickly because you are in a rush. You can eat slowly, enjoying every bite. You can eat noisily, maybe slurping your soup. You can eat neatly. These adverbs give the listener so much more information about the scene. It turns a simple sentence into a vivid image. Speaking of vivid images, let's discuss the difference between say, tell, speak, and talk. These verbs are often confused, and I can understand why. They are similar, but we use them in specific contexts. We use say when we are reporting the exact words someone used. She said, hello. We use tell when we are giving information or instructions to someone. We usually say who we are telling. She told me a story. He told me to leave. Notice we don't say he said me. That is a common mistake. Speak and talk are more general. Speak is often a bit more formal. Can I speak to the manager? Or it refers to the ability to use a language. I speak English. Talk is more informal, suggesting a conversation between two people. Let's talk about our plans. Getting these small distinctions right will make your English sound much more precise and natural. Let's take a moment to talk about something that I know worries many of you: listening to fast English. You might feel that native speakers speak too quickly. You might feel frustrated when you miss words. I want to reassure you that this is completely normal. When I was learning a second language, I felt exactly the same way. It felt like a waterfall of words, and I was just getting splashed. But there are strategies to handle this. First, focus on the keywords. You don't need to hear every single word to understand the meaning. Keywords are usually the nouns and verbs that carry the main message. The small connecting words like at, in, the are less important for the overall meaning. If you catch store, milk, forgot, you can probably guess that someone went to the store to buy milk because they forgot it. Trust your ability to fill in the gaps. Another strategy is to use context. Context is your best friend. If you are at a train station and you hear an announcement, you already know the topic is likely trains, times, and platforms. Your brain creates a prediction. The train to London is, you expect, delayed or arriving. This prediction helps you process the sound faster. So when you are listening to a podcast like this, use the context I give you. If I am talking about habits, you can predict the vocabulary, routine, morning, practice, discipline. This mental preparation makes listening much easier. I also want to encourage you to embrace different accents. English is a global language. It belongs to the world. There is no correct accent. Whether it is British, American, Australian, Indian, or Nigerian English, they are all valid. As a learner, you should expose yourself to a variety of voices. It makes your brain more flexible. If you only listen to one accent, you might struggle when you travel or speak to international colleagues. You can find videos online of people from different regions reading the same text. Listen to the melody of their speech. Do they go up at the end of sentences? Do they pronounce the R sound strongly? It is a fascinating journey of discovery. Now, let's have a little fun with idioms. Idioms are phrases where the meaning isn't obvious from the individual words. They are like secret codes of the language. Today, I want to teach you an idiom related to our topic of speaking and communication. Have you ever heard the phrase, to spill the beans? It sounds funny, doesn't it? If I say I spilled the beans, I don't mean I knocked over a pot of beans in the kitchen. It means I revealed a secret, usually by accident. Imagine you are planning a surprise party for your friend. You are talking to them, and suddenly you say, "I hope you like the party on Saturday." "Oh no, you just spilled the beans." You ruin the surprise. This is a very common idiom in casual conversation. Try to use it this week. Think of a time someone told you a secret. Another great idiom is a piece of cake. No, I am not hungry. When we say something is a piece of cake, we mean it is very easy. The English test was a piece of cake. It was easy. Why do we say this? Maybe because eating cake is easy and enjoyable. It requires no effort. It is interesting to think about where idioms come from. Often they are rooted in history or culture. Learning idioms helps you understand the sense of humor and the history of English speakers. It also makes your speaking sound more colorful and engaging. Let's switch gears and talk about the verb to get. This is possibly the most versatile and useful verb in the English language. If you master get, you can describe almost anything, but it has so many meanings it can be confusing. The basic meaning is to receive or to obtain. I got an email. I got a gift. But we also use it for movement. I got home late. It means I arrived. We use it for understanding. I get it. That means I understand. We use it for becoming. It's getting dark. The light is changing to dark. We even use it in phrasal verbs like get up, get over, get along. Get along means to have a good relationship with someone. I get along with my brother. We are friends. Get over means to recover from something, like an illness or a bad breakup. She finally got over the flu. The list goes on. My advice is to pay attention every time you hear the word get. You will be surprised how often it appears. It is the Swiss Army knife of English verbs. I want to tell you a little story about a misunderstanding I had once because of a word. I was traveling, and I asked for a preservative in my food. I meant I wanted something to keep the food fresh, or maybe I was confused about a word. But actually, in some languages, the word for preservative sounds like a word for a condom. It was very embarrassing. We laughed about it later. I tell you this because mistakes are inevitable. You will say the wrong word. You will use the wrong tense. It happens to everyone, even me. The important thing is to laugh it off. Humor is a great tool for learning. If you can laugh at your mistakes, you will be less afraid to speak. Fear stops progress. Laughter releases tension and helps you remember the correct word next time. So don't take yourself too seriously. Let's focus now on the difference between make and do. This is a classic problem for students. Why do we say make a decision but do a job? Generally, we use make when we are creating or constructing something. Make a cake, make a table, make a noise. There is a result, a product. We use do for actions, tasks, or processes that don't necessarily produce a physical object. Do homework, do the dishes, do business. However, there are many collocations, word partners, that you just have to memorize. We say make a mistake, not do a mistake. We say make money. We say do your best. There isn't always a logical rule. This is where exposure comes in. The more you read and listen, the more these combinations will sound natural to your ear. You will start to think, that sounds right, without knowing why. As we are moving forward, I want to talk about the importance of setting goals, but not just any goals, SMART goals. You might have heard of this in business, but it applies to language learning too. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Instead of saying, I want to speak English well, which is vague, try saying, I want to learn 10 new phrasal verbs by next Friday. That is specific. You can measure it. It is achievable. It is relevant to your English goals. And it has a time limit. Having a clear target focuses your energy. It turns a dream into a plan. I challenge you to write down one SMART goal for your English learning right now. Just one. It could be to listen to one podcast episode every day for a week, or to learn 5 words related to your job. We also need to discuss the mental game. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. A sprint is a fast race. A marathon is long and requires endurance. There will be days when you feel like you are not learning anything. You feel like you have hit a wall. This is called the intermediate plateau. It happens to almost everyone at the B1/B2 level. You understand a lot, but you don't feel like you are learning new things as fast as before. This is actually a sign that you are ready to push to the next level. To break through the plateau, you need to challenge yourself. Stop doing the easy things. Read a harder book. Watch a movie without subtitles. Speak to someone who doesn't slow down for you. Step out of your comfort zone. That is where the growth happens. Think about how a muscle grows. You have to lift a heavy weight to make it stronger. If you only lift a light weight, the muscle stays the same. Your brain is a muscle. Give it a heavy load. It will struggle, but it will get stronger. If you are listening to this podcast and understanding 100% perfectly, that is great. But maybe it is too easy for you. You need to find material where you understand about 70% or 80%. That is the sweet spot for learning. It is challenging enough to teach you, but not so hard that you give up. I am so happy you are continuing this journey with me. We have covered so much ground already, from the power of habits to the art of storytelling, but there is still a vast ocean of English to explore together. I want to stay with the theme of practical, everyday communication, because that is truly where the magic happens. Today, I want to dive deep into the world of conditionals. Now, do not panic when you hear that word, conditionals. It sounds like a heavy grammar term, doesn't it? But really, it is just a fancy word for if sentences. We use these all the time in real life. We are always talking about possibilities, hypothetical situations, and consequences. Understanding these will unlock a whole new level of fluency for you. Let's start with what we call the first conditional. This is the conditional of real possibility. We use it when we are talking about something that is likely to happen in the future. The structure is usually if plus the present simple, followed by will and the base verb. Think of it like a cause and effect. For example, if it rains, I will take an umbrella. This is a real possibility. It might rain. It is a plan I have. I want you to imagine a scenario right now. You are planning a picnic. You look at the sky. It looks a bit cloudy. You say to your friend, if it rains, we will cancel the picnic. It is a direct connection. It is very practical. I want you to practice this structure in your head. Think of one thing that might happen to you tomorrow. Maybe, if I wake up early, I will go for a run. Or, if I finish work early, I will call my parents. These are simple, real-life sentences that you can use every day. Now let's move to the second conditional. This is where things get interesting and a bit more fun. This is the conditional of dreams and imagination. We use this when we are talking about a situation that is not real or is very unlikely to happen. The structure changes a bit. We use if plus the past simple, followed by would and the base verb. Notice we use the past tense, but we are not talking about the past. We are talking about an imaginary present or future. This is a very common mistake learners make. They hear the past tense and think, oh, this happened yesterday. No, it is a signal that we are in the dream world. For example, if I won the lottery, I would travel the world. Now, be honest with me. Did you win the lottery? Probably not. Is it likely you will win the lottery? No. It is a dream. It is hypothetical. Let's play a game with the second conditional. I love asking this question to my students because the answers are always fascinating. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? This is a classic second conditional question. It is impossible to have a superpower, so we use this structure. I might say, if I could fly, I would visit the clouds. Or maybe, if I could read minds, I would be a great poker player. Notice how I use could in the if part sometimes. It adds the idea of ability. I want you to stop the audio for just 5 seconds and answer this question in your head. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? Picture that place. Maybe a beach house in Bali or an apartment in Paris. Now put it into a sentence. If I lived in Paris, I would eat croissants every day. Do you see how the past tense lived signals the dream? It is a beautiful way to express your desires and hopes. There is a specific phrase that is incredibly useful in business and professional settings using the second conditional. That phrase is, if I were you. We use this to give advice. It is a soft, polite way to suggest something without being bossy. Imagine your friend is sick. You can say, if I were you, I would go to the doctor. You are not actually your friend and you are not actually sick, but you are imagining yourself in their position. This is much softer than saying, go to the doctor, which sounds like a command. If I were you, I would accept the job offer. If I were you, I would study a bit more for the exam. This phrase is a powerful tool for social interaction. It shows empathy. It shows you are trying to help, not just ordering people around. Speaking of social interaction, let's talk about politeness in English. This is a cultural aspect that is very important. In many English-speaking cultures, direct commands can sound rude. If you say, give me the salt at a dinner table, people might look at you strangely. It sounds too aggressive. Instead, we use softeners. We turn commands into questions. We use modal verbs like could, would, and may. Instead of open the window, we say, could you open the window, please? Instead of help me, we say, would you mind helping me? The phrase, would you mind, is a very high level of politeness. Notice the grammar there. Would you mind closing the door? Because mind means be bothered by. We use the gerund form, the ing form. Closing. It means, would you be bothered by closing the door? And the answer, if you are willing to do it, is no, not at all. That can be confusing. Would you mind helping? No, I don't mind. I will help. It takes practice, but using these polite forms will make you sound sophisticated and respectful. Let's shift gears and talk about phrasal verbs. I know, phrasal verbs are scary. There are so many of them, and the meanings can be idiomatic, but they are essential for sounding natural. A phrasal verb is a verb plus a particle, usually a preposition, that creates a new meaning. Today, let's focus on phrasal verbs related to communication, since that is our theme. Think about the verb to call. We can call someone up. This just means to telephone them. I will call you up later. It is informal and friendly. Then we have call off. This means to cancel something. They called off the meeting because the boss was sick. If you don't know the phrasal verb call off, you might be very confused. You might think called off means telephoned outside, but it means cancel. Here is a story to help you remember these. Last month, I planned a big party. I invited all my friends. I was really looking forward to it. But on the day of the party, a huge storm started. The wind was blowing and the rain was pouring. I realized it was dangerous for people to drive, so I had to call off the party. I was so sad. I had to call my friends and tell them. While I was calling them up, my best friend said, "Don't worry, we can hang out next week." Hang out is another phrasal verb. It means to spend time together casually. Call off, call up, hang out. 3 very useful phrasal verbs in one small story. Try to use one of these today. Maybe you can send a message to a friend and say, "Let's hang out soon." I also want to talk about the phrasal verb bring up. This has a few meanings. One meaning is to raise a child. She brought up 3 children. But in conversation, it often means to introduce a topic. I didn't want to bring up the problem at dinner. This means I didn't want to start talking about the problem. It is often used when the topic is difficult or sensitive. He brought up the idea of moving to a new city. It is the act of putting an idea on the table for discussion. Phrasal verbs are like the spices of English. You can speak without them, but your language will taste a bit plain. With them, your language becomes flavorful and rich. Let's move on to a topic that I find many students overlook: sentence stress. This is about how we emphasize certain words to change the meaning. In English, we usually stress the content words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and we speak the grammar words like the, a, to, at, very quickly and quietly. But if we change the stress, we change the focus. Listen to this sentence. I never said she stole my money. This sentence has 7 words. Depending on which word I stress, the meaning changes completely. Listen closely. If I say, I never said she stole my money, I am emphasizing I. This means someone else might have said it, but I didn't. If I say, I never said she stole my money, I am denying the action of saying it. Maybe I thought it, but I didn't speak. If I say, I never said she stole my money, I am emphasizing she. This implies maybe someone else stole it, not her. If I say, I never said she stole my money, it means she didn't steal it. Maybe she borrowed it or took it by mistake. And finally, I never said she stole my money implies she stole someone else's money, not mine. This is fascinating, isn't it? By simply moving the stress, we create a completely different story. When you listen to native speakers, try to catch this stress. It will help you understand the hidden meaning, the subtext. Now let's discuss something that connects to our emotions: the weather. In English-speaking countries, especially places like the UK, the weather is the ultimate conversation starter. It is a safe, neutral topic that allows you to connect with anyone. But we don't just say, it is raining. We use much more descriptive language. We love to complain about the weather. It is a cultural bonding activity. You might hear someone say, it's pouring out there. This means it is raining very heavily. Or, it's drizzling. This is very light rain. We might say, it's freezing when it is cold. Or, it's boiling when it is hot. Boiling is for water, but we use it for temperature too. It's humid means there is a lot of moisture in the air, which makes it feel uncomfortable. Knowing these words allows you to participate in this small talk ritual. If someone says, it's miserable today, they mean the weather is bad, probably rainy and gray, and they are inviting you to agree. You can say, I know, I wish the sun would come out. It is a simple exchange, but it builds connection. Let's take a moment to talk about the difference between alone and lonely. This is a subtle but important distinction. Alone is a state of fact. If you are alone, you are by yourself. There is no one else around. It can be positive or neutral. I love being alone on Sunday mornings. I can read my book in peace. This is a choice. It is nice. Lonely, on the other hand, is an emotion. It is a feeling of sadness because you are alone or because you lack companionship. You can be alone without being lonely, and interestingly, you can feel lonely even when you are not alone. Have you ever been at a party with lots of people, but you felt like no one understood you? That is loneliness. So when you speak, choose your words carefully. I live alone is a statement of fact. I feel lonely is a statement of emotion. It is important to express your feelings accurately. I want to encourage you to do something a little bit difficult today. I want to encourage you to summarize what you have heard. Summarizing is one of the best exercises for your brain. It forces you to process the information, select the key points, and reformulate them in your own words. That is the active production of language. Maybe you can pause this audio after I finish speaking, open your voice notes app on your phone, and record yourself for 1 minute. Just tell yourself what this episode was about. Jessica talked about conditionals. She explained the difference between real possibilities and dreams. She gave examples of phrasal verbs like call off and hang out. She also discussed sentence stress. When you hear your own voice, you become aware of your mistakes and your strengths. It might feel strange at first to talk to yourself, but it is one of the most effective practice methods. Let's explore the word get a bit more because we mentioned it before, but I want to add a specific use that is very common in spoken English. We use get for passive situations. Usually we learn the passive voice with to be. For example, the window was broken. But in conversation, we often say, the window got broken. I got fired. He got hired. They got stuck in traffic. Using get like this makes the sentence sound more dynamic and personal. It focuses on the event happening to the subject. It is less formal than the standard passive. You will hear this constantly in movies and TV shows. Did you get invited to the party? Sounds more natural in casual chat than, were you invited to the party? Both are correct, but get adds that conversational flavor. We've talked a lot about vocabulary and grammar, but I want to touch on the importance of body language. When you are speaking English, your body speaks too. Eye contact is very important in Western culture. When you speak to someone, looking them in the eye shows confidence and honesty. If you look away too much, it might look like you are hiding something, or you are not confident. Of course, staring without blinking is also strange, but a steady, friendly gaze is good. Also, nodding. Nodding your head slightly shows you are listening. It shows you are engaged. If you are on a video call, these visual cues are even more important. You have to show the other person you are there. So when you practice speaking, maybe practice in front of a mirror. Watch your face. Do you look friendly? Do you look confident? Communication is 10% words and 90% nonverbal, or at least that is what they say. Your body language supports your English. Let's do a quick review of the conditionals we learned, just to make sure they stick in your mind. Remember, first conditional is for real possibilities. If I study, I will pass. It is a plan. Second conditional is for unreal situations. If I had $1 million, I would buy a boat. It is a dream. Keep that distinction clear. If you can master these two, you will be able to express almost any idea about the future or your imagination. It is a powerful tool in your speaking toolkit. As we near the end of this session, I want to talk about the word actually. This is a small word, but it is incredibly useful for B1 and B2 learners. We use actually to correct someone politely or to introduce a surprising truth. For example, if someone says, "You are from London, right?" and you are not, you can say, "Actually, I am from Manchester." It softens the correction. Without actually saying, "I am from Manchester" can sound a bit blunt or rude. Actually prepares the listener for the new information. We also use it to share something unexpected. Did you enjoy the movie? Actually, I thought it was quite boring. It shows that your opinion is different from what might be expected. It is a sophisticated discourse marker. Try to sprinkle it into your conversations. It makes your English sound very natural. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. My goal at English in Advance is to make learning English a pleasant daily habit for you. If you enjoyed this lesson, please share it with a friend who is also learning English. It helps the channel grow, and it helps more people discover our community. Also, if you are listening on a podcast platform, leaving a review or a 5-star rating really makes a difference. It tells the algorithm that this content is good, and it helps us reach more listeners like you. Remember, every minute you listen, every word you learn is a step forward. There are no wasted moments in language learning. Even if it feels slow, you are moving. You are advancing. That is the spirit of this channel. We keep moving forward. We keep improving. We do it together. Until next time, keep practicing. Stay consistent and be kind to yourself. My name is Jessica, and I will see you in the next episode of English in Advance. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye for now.